State of Affairs is pleased to welcome Bob Gordon, Commissioner, one of 5 commissioners on the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities and a former distinguished member of the State Senate. Good to see you, Bob.
Great to be here.
Describe the role of the BPU, Board of Public Utilities, for folks.
Well, the Board of Public Utilities is charged with assuring the public of secure sources of energy and water and all the key utilities at a reasonable price. And so we're very concerned about what happens to the system during storms. We try to be on top of that. We just issued a report criticizing a number of the utilities and making recommendations for improving the response. But we're also at the very center of the governor's renewable energy initiatives, offshore wind. And
the governor, sorry for interrupting, Steve Adubato here speaking with Bob Gordon from the BPU. Governor said the goal is very clear. By 2050, our goal is to make New Jersey 100% dependent on renewable energy. Break that down. What does it really mean?
Well, New Jersey's really going to be the leader in this. We hear a lot about New Jersey having the highest property taxes and highest costs here and there.
Can we leave for something good?
This is something good. We're going to build the largest offshore wind facility in the country. We're aiming to have 100% renewable energy by 2050. We're hoping to have this first wind farm up and running by 2023, 1,100 megawatts.
And what does that mean? Translate 1,100 megawatts.
Well, you know, it's tens of thousands of homes. You know, we have the benefit of 15 years of experience in Europe. And Germany today, this shocked me, Germany is now getting more energy from the offshore wind facilities in the North Sea than it's getting from nuclear energy, which was a major source of power for it. And the costs of these new technologies are dropping, so we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to deal with our climate change challenges, but also do so in a way that's respectful of the ratepayers. And the other great thing about offshore wind is we're hoping to build a whole new industry in New Jersey. You know, we're going to get the turbine manufacturers here and all the companies that provide the maintenance and installation operations for these wind farms. You know, we're hoping it's going to be the next big thing in New Jersey.
What kind of jobs are we talking about, Bob?
Well, the McKinsey organization, a major consulting firm, looked at the northeastern states and said that they could see somewhere between 18,000 and 37,000 new jobs.
Related to that industry?
In just offshore wind. Now, that's spread across a half dozen states, but we're hoping that by being aggressive and by being first, we're going to get most of those jobs here. I got to tell you, what's also critical is in working with the other states. I just had a meeting with a number of other commissioners from the surrounding states. I suggested to them that the best way to derive the economic development benefits that we want is to work together, and it was very positively received by them.
By the way, let's clarify a couple things. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. This is Bob Gordon from the Board of Public Utilities. People often wonder, what is the Board of Public Utilities, not just in terms of what it does, but there are 5 commissioners. There's a reason why there's an odd number, so you don't have an impasse, a stalemate. But, in fact, 3 of those 5 members, former Senator Gordon, are Democrats. We just had the president, Joe Fiordaliso, a Democrat, on. You also have another Democrat who serves?
Former Assemblyman Upendra Chivakula.
And you have 2 Republicans who serve on it as well, correct?
Yeah, Mariana Holden, the former mayor of Madison, and Diane Solomon, former president of the board.
Sure. Explain to folks why there is 5, and explain why there are 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. That doesn't seem fair unless what?
Well, you know,
you serve at the pleasure of the chief executive of the state.
Well, actually, I have a multi-year appointment.
But you get appointed by.
I get appointed by the governor. The majority matches the governor at the time. So we just had 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, and that just switched with my arrival on the scene. But there are eventually some controversial issues, and you know, they don't want an impasse.
Bipartisan cooperation?
You know, there is actually a lot of bipartisan.
Really? That's where it's happening?
Well, listen, you know, when you start getting into the minutia of utility rates, it's hard to get ideological about that. But there are some points of view about whether the government should be engaged in some new industry or not. And so we have these debates. But I think it's really good to have this back and forth among us, and we're all friends. There's none of this toxic atmosphere that you see in Washington.
No.
I certainly, I was on the phone last night with one of my Republican colleagues just talking about offshore wind.
We like hearing these things. By the way, Bob Gordon, do you regulate the cable industry?
We actually cover the following industries: electricity, water, gas, wastewater, telecommunications, and cable.
That's a big portfolio.
We touch every life in New Jersey. Traditionally, it's been just the sort of the minutia of rate setting, which is not something you do for fun. But we're also the center of the clean energy program. So we're at the heart of all of the initiatives that the governor's advancing in this area.
Real quick, nuclear.
Nuclear, it's something that's on our plate now. The nuclear plants are having a hard time around the country competing with the low cost of natural gas. So many of the utilities around the country are looking for some subsidies. The legislature in April passed legislation to provide subsidies to the nuclear plants in New Jersey and charge the BPU with deciding which plants should get a subsidy, if at all. And we're going to take a very careful look at whether subsidies are needed first, and then if they are, which plants should get some support.
How do you protect consumers against any potential problems associated with nuclear energy? Safety.
Safety?
You worry about it?
Well, that's primarily a federal responsibility. But actually,
Federal Regulatory Commission?
In terms of, I think a point that has been lost in this debate on nuclear is you could argue that it's important to have nuclear plants around for national security reasons. There are bad people out there who have thought about how to shut down natural gas in this country, either through physical attacks or through cyber attacks. And the nice thing about a nuclear plant is the fuel is on site. They're very secure facilities. And I think the answer is it's a good idea to have a diverse collection of energy sources. And again, we have to be very mindful of the impact on the ratepayers. We think about that every day. So, there are some trade-offs, like a lot of things in public life.
Real quick, before I let you go, you're serving on the Board of Public Utilities. As a state senator, you spent a lot of time examining other public agencies, including the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. You learned anything from that experience?
Well, actually, yes.
Got a minute left, go.
I just said we need to work with the other states on offshore wind. I learned how to work with New York, and I got bills through the New York legislature when I was working on the Port Authority issue. So I'm very interested, and I enjoy working with leaders from other states, and I think that there's potential to do the same thing again with offshore wind.
Bob Gordon is one of the 5 commissioners on the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, a former very distinguished member of the state legislature and the Senate. I want to thank you for joining us, Bob.
As
Keep
always,
protecting us out there.
Thank you.
State of Affairs, Steve Adubato. We'll be right back right after this.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by PSE&G, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Suez, Verizon, Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey, Seton Hall University, Fedway Associates, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey.